Miracles, by definition, are very rare. The dictionary describes them as extraordinary, welcome events that are not explainable by natural or scientific laws, and are therefore believed to be the action of some divine agency. But if you don't believe in a supernatural God, does that mean miracles don't happen? The generally accepted theory of the origin of the universe is that it just came into existence out of absolutely nothing. To me, that's a fantastic miracle that takes more faith to believe than believing in God himself. There are many scientists who believe that our fantastic, glorious universe spontaneously appeared from absolutely nothing at all. If this were true, then any sort of God would be unnecessary. And that raises some uncomfortable questions. Where did the laws of physics exist before there was a universe to which they could be applied? One scientist honestly admitted, "It's a great mystery as to where the laws of physics came from. We don't even know how to approach it." Perhaps William of Ockham, famous for his philosophical principle, Occam's razor, had it right. It's usually paraphrased as, "The simplest solution is most likely the right one." We've recently dropped the idea that the universe is eternal because we've proved that the universe had a beginning. With so many theories about what came before the alleged 13.8 billion years matter has existed, perhaps we should look at the obvious answer. There is a creator. We have a book that tops the world's bestseller list every year that begins, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Let's dare to go with this reviled, ridiculed, and often ignored book, the Bible, which, by the way, recorded there was a beginning to the universe over 3,000 years before we discovered it in the 20th century. Perhaps the more staggering fact is that the God who created everything stepped into his creation as a human baby. Most of us celebrate Christmas, but the majority fail to grasp its true significance. When Jesus began his public ministry, he made it absolutely plain that he was the Son of God. The remainder of the New Testament points to him as the creator of all things. The things that he did proved who he was. His amazing speeches and his miraculous works were attested by historian Josephus, who himself lived in the 1st century AD. We learn from Josephus and others that Jesus existed. Josephus recorded that Jesus was a wise and virtuous man with a significant following of Jewish and non-Jewish disciples. He also said he was crucified under Pilate, the Roman governor. He writes, there were reports that he appeared to witnesses following his resurrection. And also, some were claiming that he was the Messiah, that the Jewish prophets had predicted. If we look at some of his miracles, it becomes obvious that someone who could do these incredible things has to be supernatural. In John's account of the life of Christ, he mentions 7 signs that prove Jesus was God. Water into wine at the wedding at Cana was the first amazing sign. When the master of ceremonies drank the wine made from just water, he was astounded and remarked to the bridegroom about the quality of the wine being served. People had been drinking for a long time. Usually, an inferior vintage was served last, when people had had their fill. And he said to him, "But you have saved the best till last." Jesus had not only produced the wine from water, he had produced the finest wine. Fermentation takes a long time. Jesus, the Creator, did it instantly. The account of Jesus feeding 5,000 men is recorded in all 4 Gospels. The boys' lunch of 5 small barley loaves and 2 little fish fed them all. Perhaps more like 20,000 were present if the women and children are included. And the leftovers filled 12 baskets. As Christ broke the bread and fish, he was performing a creative act. The lunch was multiplied to more than satisfy the crowd without any additional supplies. When the man blind from birth was given his sight by Jesus, not only were his eyes healed, but the visual memory he needed to understand what he saw was given to him at the same time. A real biblical miracle is instantaneous, complete, and long-lasting. Christ told the disciples that they would do even greater things than these, because he was going to return to heaven. At the moment, I'm reading through the book of the Acts of the Apostles, and I'm up to about chapter 3 now, and this book shows that the prophecy came true. Peter and John were going to the temple to pray, and they met a lame man who had been unable to walk from birth. He was begging at the gate, and Peter told him he had no money to give to him, but through the power of the risen Christ, he was able to perform a miraculous healing. Immediately, the man's feet and ankles became strong, and he jumped to his feet and was walking and leaping and praising God. Just getting the use of his legs for the first time would have been an amazing miracle. But he was able to walk without learning to walk and jump right from the beginning. In Isaiah's prophecy, written about 750 years before Christ, he foretells a time when, as he puts it, the eyes of the blind will be opened and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then will the lame leap like a deer, and the mute tongue shout for joy. The prophecy came true, certainly for the early apostles. During the life of Jesus of Nazareth, he healed all who came to him. He even raised 3 people that we know about from the dead. And one of them His friend Lazarus had been dead and buried for 4 days. His resurrection pointed to the greatest miracle of all time, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. No reliable historian would say that Jesus never existed. But whether we believe he is God, as he claimed, is up to the individual. When we come to agree that in the beginning God created, as Genesis 1 verse 1 says, we acknowledge a miraculous God who not only made the universe, but also holds it together by the word of his power. We have made the first step, if we've done that, towards a new life. The wise king Solomon wrote in one of his proverbs, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." My former Bible class teacher, who is now 95 years old, is still teaching about his Saviour. Recently, he has used his hobby of woodworking to inspire people to take a step of faith. He has made little bowls out of wood, like this one, reminding people of the step of faith Gideon took hundreds of years before his name appeared on hotel Bibles. Gideon asked for a sign. He left a fleece out on the ground and asked that the earth would be free of dew and the fleece would be soaking wet, a very unnatural event. And the next morning, he wrung out the fleece and filled the bowl. What step of faith are you considering at the moment? If you want the ultimate answer to miracles, you can ask God to give you a brand new life through Christ, and he will make you a brand new person inside.